Yo, what's happening, all you Amphibia nerds out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din coming at you again with Amphibia. It's Season two's Episode 25, titled The First Temple. Ooh, it's been so long awaited. I'm so ready. Let's jump right into this very fun episode. Picking up after the events of In the Rain, or was it After the Rain? After the Rain. Hopadaya is trying his best to get on Anne's good side with pancakes, because everybody loves pancakes and chocolate chip. Oh, chocolate flavored bug. Ugh. But it's still very awkward between them. But in comes Marcy, as she has located the first temple. And she's very smitten with the planter's family home. But, Marcy is all set to recharge the first crystal, as she's given the music box and she's able to figure out the configuration to allow them to take one of the gems, which is really cool. Like, I love little secret tricks like that. I would love to have an actual physical music box that actually works just like this, where I put in the sequence code and the gems pop out and all that. Oh, that would be so cool. Also, Joe Sparrow, Marcy's ride, tries to mac on Betsy, and I am all for the beat that goes on here. It is straight fire. But they set off with a, room on top of Joe being a little too cramped, so Hopadaya gets to go the very terrifying way. And Marcy notes that the first temple will be the Temple of Knowledge, which very much is her thing. So she thinks that this should be a breeze for her. So, because temples, puzzles, all that, she's very much a Legend of Zelda fan and all that good stuff. However, Anne notes that once Marcy gets fixated on something, she tends to forget about the world around her, and that has led to some very dangerous situations. But they end up in the Amygdala Forest, which I'm surprised I remember that name. A forest of brain like mushrooms, complete with outhouse. And they arrive at the first temple, which very much is a swanky looking place. But the situation between Anne and Hopadaya continues to be very awkward. Yeah, awkward. But, they kind of brush it off, saying, oh, they'll work through it, they'll be fine. So they enter the temple, and that mural in the background, like, yo, that is the mural that you see at the end of at the title card, honestly, in the background of the title card. Like, oh, dude, I wish they had noticed that fully, because it's obvious it's very obscured and it looks just offhanded, like something just in the background. So, very well done. I love the sense of world building. But Polly steps on a switch and it lights everything up, and apparently there will be a series of three trials. So Marcy, knowing all the ancient amphibian language, is able to figure out what it says about the various different trials, and so they enter the chamber of the first trial, which apparently is some kind of Rubik's Cube, which traps the user in this bubble. So it's handed off to Marcy. Unfortunately, the planters and Anne find out that the box also ends up controlling how the floor of the chamber works. Although they're not trapped in there, so I don't know why they don't just step off the platform that they're on, as it almost kills them. But Marcy is able to figure it out, although the planters and Anne are a little worse for wear. The next stage seems to have various different stepping stones. The pink ones, if you step on them, it engulfs in fire. And then a message comes up saying, don't be jealous of my hue. And the blue tiles also crush things. So from that, Marcy is able to figure out that, okay, don't be jealous of my hue, green with envy. So she steps on the green tile. I love riddles like that. So cute, so quaint. And she steps on the one tile, but there's two tiles, showing that it's a two-person team up kind of thing. But with the planters and Anne kind of little shaky on if they'll be able to make it. They're fearful about what should happen if they should fail the jump. But when Hoppediah tries to take the plunge, Anne wants to do it, with them starting to argue about who should care about what, with Anne saying, you should stay with your family. You obviously chose them over me, which that was a low blow, but it's obvious Anne is still hurting from everything that happened previously. She feels that ultimately she's not considered part of the family, which and that couldn't be further from the truth, but, that doubt is there. She obviously put a lot of trust in Hoppediah, and that got compromised in a major way. So she ends up taking the plunge regardless of Hoppediah's feelings, almost getting straight up murdered, but they're able to successfully get through the room and the door opens, with the last puzzle being at the top. Although the situation with Anne and Hoppediah is really starting to hurt things, with Polly and Sprig wondering if maybe Marcy can do something, but she feels that they'll wear themselves out eventually. 1 hour later, they arrive at the final chamber, and Hoppediah and Anne are still going at it. In fact, they've escalated to full-on shouting. But they come upon the final challenge, which is a game of, I think it was Flip It? Kind of like chess, but with toad pieces and all that good stuff. And apparently, Marcy is very good at the game. Apparently, having beaten King Andreas, several times. But there's one last warning that seems to say that should Marcy fail, she will be barred from entering the temple again. But, as she starts to set up the game board, all of a sudden Polly is sent through this hole in the floor, and as a life-size version of the game board appears, we find it's that old chestnut of, you're the pieces of the, chessboard. And as things go on and the various planters are all put in their place, we see that Anne ends up on the enemy's side. Very fascinating turn of a phrase. And she can't fight against it or, basically cheat, as all of them are restrained magically. But Marcy says, no worries, guys, I've got this. I'm so good at games that you won't come to suffer in any way, shape, or form. Though they do end up suffering just because of all the, involuntary movement they have to do. But it looks like Marcy's won this one out only for the game to cheat. What a crock. It cheated in the end, much to Marcy's dismay, as because of this, she's at a complete loss. It's just like she wasn't expecting the game to cheat against her, and Hoppediah ends up getting beaten up by Anne, which is unfortunate, and Marcy is just completely confused as what to do next. And Hoppediah kind of feels like Anne is probably enjoying this with how much she's been kind of burning into him this entire trip, and tries to tell him no, that couldn't be further from the truth, but Hoppediah really has been kind of hurt by a lot of the things that Anne has been saying, and he just wants to know how he can make it up to her. But for Anne, it's not a matter of making it up to her, it's just she's hurt and she needs some time to deal with that. It's only been maybe a day or two, and that wound is still fresh. Maybe she can get over it, forgive Hoppediah at some point, but right now, she's just feeling that. And Hoppediah, like the adult he is, accepts this. He's just like, you know what? You take all the time that you need. I hurt you, and I have to just kind of live with that. And that's big of Hoppediah, if nothing else. And seeing all of this, Marcy comes to the realization, what am I doing? Why am I treating these people like this, my friends like this? I haven't been treating them as they're living people. I've been treating them as part of a game board. So she tries to forfeit, but the game won't let her. So she tries to go in person, but it starts to attack her. But with a little help of chucking Sprig, she's able to completely forfeit the match, much to her dismay, but ultimately it was worth it. She didn't want to have the planters and Anne get hurt just because of her actions. She just couldn't go through with it. And so The temple points her towards the exit, apparently marking that they failed. As Hopadai gets a ride from Anne, showing that their relationship is still on the mend, but there's still that care between them. Aww. So they make their way out of the temple, and Marcy feeling like, I can't go back, that was the rules. But the arrows haven't stopped once they were outside. No, it leads to the outhouse. And inside the outhouse, we see it's the final leg of the temple, with a message in the back ultimately saying that through choosing her friends over winning, that's the final puzzle. Compassion is the greatest aspect you need when you have knowledge. I love that lesson. It's brilliant. Yes, knowledge is power, but you have to have compassion as well, or knowledge can tend to spiral out of control. You get too far into your own head and you start to forget the people and the world around you that might actually just kind of need you for the most part. I just really love that message. A plus stuff. And so Marcy puts in the gem, it gets all charged up. Weirdly enough, the green color that we see from time to time in her eyes almost looks like it's being drained from her. Very suspicious. I hope that's not a negative thing. But the gem is charged, and it even points towards the next temple, which Marcy says that she'll triangulate where it's pointing later down the line. And while the situation between Anne and Hopadai is still kind of wonky and on the rocks, it's still they still care about each other, if nothing else, and they want to get back to that point. And that's the mark of a true good relationship. You know, even when bad things happen, you still try to just be there for each other. You know, that's what family does. Although ultimately, with everything that has happened at this temple, Anne and the planters decide that maybe they'll hold off on heading to the next temple. Just get a little bit of a break in. You don't complete a whole game in one sitting. Pace yourself. Take little breaks. Get some water. Hydrate. Come on. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about the first temple? Do you feel that the puzzles were a little too simple, or just hard enough that they were passable? And what did you think about the ultimate lesson? Knowledge, but with compassion. I would really love to hear your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Ooh, I almost forgot completely to talk about the fact that King Andreas ends up meeting with General Yunnan at the end. Like, I completely forgot about the stinger at the end. I'm just like, oh, it was a fun episode with knowledge and all that. No, King Andreas meets with General Yunnan, who talks about the fact that the uprising within the valley has continued to spread. However, King Andreas receives a message from Marcy telling him that they found the first temple and charged the first crystal. So he goes and enters the secret passageway that leads all the way into the depths of the castle, complete with the weird ghost things that we saw before, who are actually afraid of King Andreas. And he's led to this place that seems very mechanical in nature. And he bows before this thing he calls Sire, saying that the first temple has been found, the crystal has been charged, and they will soon receive their vengeance. And we see it, the thing that King Andreas serves. What is it? Who is it? Why is it? Where is it? What could possibly be the vengeance that King Andreas wants? Why? Why is he serving this thing, and to what end? Dude, this thing is so creepy. But, that's my last little thing. I can't believe I forgot about this section. But it feels so separate from the overall tone of the episode. I forgot all about it, which is shocking because it's such a major revelation that King Andreas serves something wicked. What do you think it is? Comment section below. Let me know. Farewell.